Right, so I've had a quick little look out the window, and it turns out London is blue. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Blue Pride of London. I'm your host, Nathan, and it's an absolute pleasure to have all of you here today. Thank you so much for tuning in. So, before we get into the actual game itself, I just want to remind you all, if you have in fact discovered us but you're not yet subscribed to the channel, now would be an absolute perfect time to do so. And if at any point you enjoy this video, please do me the pleasure by hitting the thumbs up button, just sort of down there somewhere. That way more people can see the video and it helps out the channel. But this game was magnificent. Let's just cut all the BS. It was a fantastic game, and let's get into it, shall we? So Arsenal versus Chelsea at the Emirates Stadium, the second game of the season. And like most Chelsea fans, I went into this game with a lot of confidence. The way that we performed against Crystal Palace and the way that our team should be on a high, considering with champions of Europe, and we've only recently just won the Super Cup as well. Yes, I'm still going to get those into the videos. Our opening game of the season was really, really brilliant, and we had a sensational performance. And Arsenal's first game of the season was a little bit so-so, really. So going into this game, I think the Chelsea squad and the Chelsea fans had an awful lot of confidence. And even though we did have the voodoo of the last 3 times that we went up against Arsenal, they did in fact beat us against the sort of grain, if you really think about it. When we had this fixture last season, Arsenal was going into sort of like a pretty much a rubbish run of form, and we were sort of on a bit of a high, but they came out and they beat us quite comfortably. So there was still in my gut a sort of like a slight nervy little sort of like, oh, is it going to happen again? But almost straight off from kickoff, we showed that we were the more superior team. It was pretty much boys against men for the majority of this game. We outplayed them in every position across the pitch. Yeah, Arsenal are having a bit of a COVID problem. I think Ben White was absent from the squad because he recently came out positive, so he wasn't in the squad. So yeah, Arsenal do have the excuses, but do they really have an excuse to play the way that they've done? Yeah, Chelsea came into this game with an awful lot of confidence, as I said, and Crystal Pulisic wasn't in fact in the matchday squad because apparently he picked up a bit of an injury throughout the week. But there were a couple of eyebrows raised in the starting 11, but not too many sort of like shocks. So let's have a quick little look at the lineup, and then we can sort of like have a bit of a discussion about the players. So this is the team that started against Arsenal. This graphic I found on OneFootball. It's an app that I use to get most of my news and everything like that. And this is their sort of like starting lineup. So there wasn't many surprises. And in goal, Mendy had an absolute stormer of a game once again. He pulled off a brilliant save in the second half to tip a ball over the bar, and he read the situation quite well when Arsenal looked like they were literally on a break, and he came out of his area and did a long ball clearance. So yeah, I think he played sensationally well. The back three, there was a little bit of a sort of like, wow, is this how it's going to be? Because Trevor Chalobah was absent from the entire squad. We don't know entirely too sure why. I've not really found a perfect reason to it. But we had Rudiger, Christensen, and Aspilicueta in the back three, which, is a solid back three. It looks like Christensen is going to be the natural progressor from Thiago Silva, which I think we sort of expected, especially towards the end of last season. And he has now started the last 2 games and performed very, very well. Probably a little bit of a shaky start, but he really settled himself quite early on in the game and commanded that back three very, very well. Now, the wing backs, it looked good. Alonso, he is surprising a lot of Chelsea fans this season. We all know what he can do. He can run up and down that wing and put in some crosses and make sure he's in that back line and at the front. And he does that well. When there's a back three and he is designed to go up and down that left channel, that is where he is in his element. And the way that Thomas Tuchel is playing at the moment is perfect for Marcos Alonso. So will we be seeing Ben Chilwell anytime soon? Because he is more of a defender rather than an actual wing back. But Alonso is in his element at the moment and put in another sensational performance. And on the right, a potential man of the match. Unfortunately, he was overshadowed by a player we will talk about in a little while. But again, he dominated that right-hand side. Arsenal didn't seem to have an answer for him. He seemed to have a lot of freedom. He didn't really have a player that he had to constantly go up against. So he did find himself out of position quite a fair bit, which sort of gave us a little bit of a headache every now and then, but he always managed to bring himself back. Now, James is brilliant going up and down that white ring, but his defensive style still needs a little bit of work, which I think is something that they're going to sort of like try to practice and move on for. In the centre midfield pivot, we had Jorginho and Kovacic. Conte started out on the bench, so maybe he's still not quite up to match fitness, but these two once again performed brilliantly, making sure any Arsenal attack were completely swiped to one side, and when one did it, the other one was slightly in front, so there was always a pass forward to try again with a Chelsea attack. And a flawless performance amongst the entire squad. It's probably like a blanket sort of saying amongst the entire squad. Just in front of them, we had Mason Mount and Kai Havertz. Mason Mount controlled that sort of like gap between the Arsenal's defence and midfield, with Kai Havertz just sort of running erratic all over the shop. And yes, we did assume it was going to happen, and he played the full 90 minutes and a man of the match performance by Lukaku. It only took him 15 minutes to score his first goal for Chelsea, and what a goal it was. But that was the starting 11. Let's have a quick little look at the match itself. Now, like I said before, Chelsea came out the blocks running. They were high tempo and they really pushed Arsenal around the sort of the pitch, left, right and centre. It didn't take long for the Arsenal fans to quiet down and wonder where their team has disappeared to, or if there's anything going to happen within this game. And quite frankly, 2-0 was quite a flattering result for Arsenal, if I'm honest. We should have at least had 3, maybe 4 or 5. The first half, Chelsea were so dominant. It was unbelievable. And like I said, it took 15 minutes for Lukaku to get the opening goal. And what a fantastic goal it was. Reece James on the right-hand side whipped it into the box. Lukaku just onside on the shoulder of the defender and sort of like slitted it home from close range. And yeah, the crowd went wild. He was extremely pleased by his efforts, and I guess it was sort of like a moment he's been waiting almost 10 years to do. But Lukaku, he played his little heart out in this game just to show that he is the missing piece to this Chelsea side. He dominated those two sort of central backs, so much so that he ended up getting them so frustrated that they ended up getting a caution. One of them quite early on in the game. So straight away, it was sort of like they were always wondering what they could do, how they can try to stop him. For Lukaku's goal, he literally just sort of shoved one of them to one side. He ended up on his rear end, wanting to get a foul out of it. But, let's face it, that was definitely not a foul. And yeah, so Chelsea went 1-0 up within 15 minutes. A few minutes later, Reece James popped out on the right-hand side. Acres of space. Like I said, he didn't have anybody around him to sort of like try to sort of cushion him in any sort of way. And Mason Mount found him in the box where he so confidently slipped the ball home to make it 2-0. Ran up to the Arsenal fans, grabbing his badge and, just sort of like rubbing their nose in it, really. So, yeah, it was an overall great performance in the first half. So the second half came out and the heavens opened. There was a little bit of sort of like trying to get used to the fact that the wet pitch, and you can see that some passes were definitely being sort of like overdone or underdone because trying to get used to the conditions. But Arsenal did come out fighting a little bit. They woke up a little bit. I think they really got a firecracker up their bums by their coach to sort of say, listen, like this could be really, really, really bad for us. So we need to go out there and start fighting, which did bring the Arsenal fans up a little bit. But after 10-15 minutes, when Chelsea once again went, do you know what? No, you are not having this game to yourself. This is our victory, and we're going to give you, the first time in Arsenal's history, a second league defeat with not scoring goals. It's never happened, apparently, and thanks to Chelsea, we did it. Now, we should have made it 3-0. Lukaku did a sensational header. Dave, or Aspilicueta, sort of threw the ball into the box, pretty much what he'd done with Morata quite often. But Lukaku, powerful header into the central thing, and the Arsenal keeper saved sensationally, so much so that Lukaku was a little bit gobsmacked that this actually sort of like, there was a moment where he was like, did he save that? Was that a save? Chelsea held on, even though Arsenal were trying to sort of break down our defence. Another clean sheet for Thomas Tuchel's side and another sensational performance. So, going into next week, we are currently at the top of the table, I think maybe on goal difference, and we are up against Liverpool, who are also unbeaten this season so far, and we have 6 points apiece. And going into that game at Anfield, it's already a potential huge game where, you know, a win for Chelsea would definitely sort of concrete ourselves at the top of that table, considering some of the other big teams are beginning to lose points. And then I think we've got Man City in a week or so after that. But guys, please tell me what you thought of this game. Were you correct with your prediction? I think I said 2-0, and I said 2-0 on a couple of the apps. I think I may have said 3-0 in the video. But yeah, guys, please write your comments down there below. If you haven't already, hit the like button, and I will see you in a few days. Thank you. Goodbye.